Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast. This is where accounting professionals just like you learn all the ways to grow their firm, sharpen their skills, and have consistent increasing sales. I cover topics such as detaching from the emotional side of the sale, having paradigm shifts in the most important part of your business, which is the nucleus of your accounting firm, sales, and how to see an objection really as an asset and stop giving away your time for free for those that don't deserve it, so you can actually get paid your value and your worth and grow your top line revenue. You'll learn tips, sales strategies, as well as hear from personal interviews from successful accounting professionals. This podcast will show you exactly the blueprint on how to create the firm and life of your dreams full of abundance. Welcome back to the Abundant Accountant Podcast. Today we have a very special guest. Our special guest is Dominique Molina, who is a CPA, MST, and CTS, and is the co-founder and president of the American Institute of Certified Tax Planners. She is the driving force and visionary behind this San Diego nonprofit that helps tax professionals approach tax planning, realizing that many tax professionals were missing government tax breaks that could save their clients millions of dollars. So she has created an elite network of tax pros, CPAs, EAs, and tax attorneys who are trained to help their clients proactively implement tax strategies and rescue their clients out of thousands of dollars in wasted tax. She has successfully licensed over 1,000 tax pros as certified tax planners across the country. She is also an accomplished keynote speaker, teacher, 6-time best-selling author, and mentor to tax professionals across the U.S. She routinely speaks for Surgent CPE and AICTP Women's Leadership Summit, among with other leading professional groups. But before we welcome Dominique to the show, I know that as a tax and accounting professional, I imagine you are sick of grinding 14 hours a day, sacrificing your time with family and friends, and postponing vacations that are way long overdue, and are completely exhausted from being on the financial roller coaster, from discounting your fees, and then end up resenting the work that you do for them and feeling like a commodity. But, none of this is your fault. I know that nobody is training you on how to fix these problems and connect the dots. So my team and I have set aside some time in the next 48 hours to speak to you personally about how you can apply some new strategies to your firm today to put all of that to rest. So head on over to theabundantcall.com to book your call with us. Whatever your biggest challenges are, we've seen it and we know how to overcome it. So head on over to theabundantcall.com. We'll get on the phone for about 45 minutes. We'll get crystal clear on where you're at right now with your firm, what's keeping you stuck. We'll also identify where you want to be with your firm and in your life so you can get paid first, never discount, and avoid all those pitfalls along the way and save you a ton of money in the process. So head on over to theabundantcall.com and we look forward to speaking with you soon. Now let's welcome Dominique to the show. Welcome, Dominique, to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me back, Michelle. It's great to be here.
Of course. Yeah, it's been a little while, but I'm very excited about our topic today because this is a timely one, especially as everyone's sort of burnt out after tax season and really, not feeling the love. So today on the show, we have Dominique Molina here. She'll tell you who she is real quick if you're not familiar with her, but really talking about doing the work that really matters and getting paid well for it and being appreciated and loved by your clients. So Dominique, do you want to share real quick who you are with those that don't know you?
Yeah. I've worked in the tax industry, Michelle, since I filed my very first tax return at the age of 15. So well over 30 years ago. And I spent, of course, 4 years in college getting a degree in accounting, went on to get a graduate degree in law school so that I could learn tax law. And I've been doing a lot in that time to hone my craft and be as good of a tax planner and a tax preparer as I can For the last 13 years, I've been teaching CPAs, enrolled agents, and attorneys in advanced tax reduction strategies for businesses. And so, Michelle, you might say that I've seen just about everything.
Probably.
But I have to say, I have seen nothing compared to the bad behavior from tax clients that I've seen in the last 2 years.
I bet, especially, we've had a pandemic and the laws changing and dates changing and everything just changing on people like me. I'm not the CPA and I don't prepare anyone's taxes, but I do know that there's been so many changes, even just for the regular, people or your clients.
Yes, I think people don't often realize. You might say we being, tax professionals, we have carried this nation's economy on our backs to avoid financial collapse during this whole pandemic. And I think people just don't realize the severity. Not only have we had to master 77,000 pages of tax law, but sort of at a moment's notice, 4 major new tax laws, including more than 100 changes in the last 2 years. And that was all while we're trying to facilitate the entire federal stimulus program. And so it's been a lot. And I have to say that we know the value of what we bring. We know that this is true and what we've had to do to sort of jump through these hoops. But I don't think that's very clear to our clients.
It's not. I didn't even know there were 100 changes in the law in the last 2 years. Yeah. So I think the lack of education to people like me as well, what is an area or how would you recommend an accounting firm owner bring this to the surface so, you can feel the love from clients. You can feel appreciated when a lot of it stems from being undereducated when it comes to all of these changes being the taxpayers.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a lot of it has to do with the clients themselves. And so when we look at this concept of high value services, that is not a service that's a fit for every single taxpayer that's out there. Now, there happens to be a tremendous amount of demand. There's 700 taxpayers for every one of us.
Wow.
But we don't need to service 700 people to make a very good living. And in fact, perhaps we shouldn't service that many. If the pandemic season this last 2 years has taught us anything at all, just because people are going through a hard time doesn't excuse rude and egregious behavior just because people don't like, how much tax they have to pay, so to speak. And so a lot of this is about finding high value customers and then offering them a high value service that's really appealing to them. Listen, I know the stimulus has been appealing, but there's sort of this expectation that we're going to do this for people and do it for free often is the expectation that's out there. And there's sort of this entitlement that goes along with it. And so when we can distance ourselves from being seen as a service that people are entitled to, rather than a service that they want to be invited into, that's a major difference. And I think you'll start to see a major difference in the behavior of clients. It goes from somebody being disgruntled with what we're doing because, frankly, they just don't understand it and they never will. So we have to get over that fact first, to get over the fact that people don't understand and they never will, and instead really focus on the things that people can understand and in fact want. And once you figure out what that service is, then we look at offering this to high value clients. And the thing is, we should certainly treat every client as if they're our most valuable ones, but there are differences in clients, and these high value customers have outstanding customer lifetime values. They help us actually attract new people to us. They're loyal. And those are the people that we actually want to retain. And so I think sometimes what happens is we accept this poor behavior from people. We kind of forget about it in the summer months. It wears off and we're able to get rejuvenated and we get our energy level back. But we don't make changes in the practice that excludes that bad behavior.
Yeah, and that's what ends up having people burnt out right around this time. You know, if you're listening, you probably feel burnt out, unloved, undervalued. And it's just this cycle that in the summertime you've sort of forgotten about it because you might have been on one or two vacations or had a lot of cocktails. And now it's like, how do you stop this vicious cycle? And I think what you said, I really like and want to go deeper on is having a service that you can be offering for your clients where they're invited into versus being entitled to. And I know you focus on tax planning, but what other services or ideas do you have about creating that niche or that service before we can go and find those higher value clients that would fit for that type of service, you know, for a firm owner listening right now?
You're exactly right, is that we have to identify the service first before we can then identify who's a good fit. Yeah. Right. But right now, today, in today's times, it's all about experience. And we may think that we have a great experience for clients, but it's really about identifying what they want to experience. And so being able to demonstrate that different experience from the get-go. There's a lot of things that we can do with technology to remain in constant contact with people. I think the number one thing, if we look at survey results, the number one thing that tax clients want and look for in their tax advisor is they want the advice and they want the responsiveness with that advice. So in other words, if they don't perceive me as being responsive, then I'm not the one that they trust to come to with advice because they view that I'm not there and I'm not available. Now, if I can create a customer experience that creates that impression, even though I might not be picking up the phone and contacting and reaching out to people every minute, if I can create that impression because I've got text messages going out, I've got emails going out, I've got videos out with my face, I've got my administrative staff that can make calls on a regular basis just to reach out to my clients, we instantly start to create this valuable experience, a high value experience, such that then we are in a position to attract the high value customer. Yeah. So it really starts with that customer experience, no matter what your service is in the end. Of course, I focus on advanced tax reduction because, number one, it's really easy for people to understand. It's very easy for me to communicate the value of that because, in fact, I can tell them the value. I can say, hey, if I'm saving you $300,000 in tax, that's how much I'm worth to you, right? Yep. And then it allows me to present some context and some meaning for my fees. And then that's what really makes them feeling desperate and wanting to be invited to take part in that process. But you can do this with lots of different services that you offer. Again, I'm going to encourage everybody to focus on those services that deliver obvious value. If you can help your clients and you're already helping your clients be more profitable in their business. Let's say your skill is you go through and you weed through somebody's income statement and you can point out where they're wasting money. Wherever you can save them and make somebody more profitable, that's a high value service, right? Yeah, totally. And so if you pair that with a high value experience, now you've got a whole package to offer, right?
Yeah, now, and the experience has to have some sort of responsiveness in that because people like me, we don't understand what the services are, or we might be in the unknown a lot. And we put our trust into our firm owners and CPAs and EAs and others. And we need to be, it's almost like from my point of view, and maybe you can share it from the firm owner point of view, like being overly communicative is actually a really good thing.
Right. Right. And again, that there's different ways to do that without it being a time suck. Now, what I will say, Michelle, is that if I have 25 or 50 clients, it's far easier for me to be truly responsive and extra communicative than it is if I had 700 clients. Right?
Right.
So that's one thing, is really thinking about, what do I have to do to create this kind of experience for my client? That might mean shedding some of the obstacles to that. And if the truth is that I cannot provide that level of responsiveness, I have to address the big obstacle, and that is what's preventing me from giving somebody what they really want. Now, just like I was saying that you create this high value experience and you pair it with a high value service, the opposite can be true as well. And so just because I offer a high value service, let's say saving hundreds of thousands of dollars off of someone's tax liability every year, if I don't pair that with a high value experience, so let's say now I ghost people, I've done the plan, and now I dive back down into my stacks of tax returns and I disappear for a couple of months, which is kind of what people's impressions are. Their impression is their accountant has disappeared, right?
True. Very true.
Now there is inconsistency in the whole offering, and that diminishes trust. So you can still have somebody that's disgruntled with your work, even though you deliver a high value service. Yep. We have to really walk that walk fully and envelop that in the whole experience so that the whole thing is positive. And again, it doesn't mean that, I don't think, Michelle, you mean that, hey, I want someone in constant communication. I don't think you expect as a client to get a phone call every week from your accountant.
Oh, no, not at all. I would just mean, be educated in what's going on, be in the loop. I was sharing with a bunch of students in the 8-week sales mastery course that I have that it's like we put our full trust in you. It's similar to if you were a surgeon or the anesthesiologist, you basically are putting us under because we have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. And then we just come out of the other side, fully repaired, or our legs are put together again and walking. And it's like behind the scenes, when you were put under, we have no idea what happened underneath the anesthesia. And when we provide all the documents and financials and, et cetera, we don't know what you're doing behind the scenes. So it's very similar to, you going to get surgery and they put you under, or, my boyfriend had a colonoscopy where they put you under and clean out your colon. And he's like, I have no idea. I just walked out and I guess I'm all cleaned out.
I have actually heard tax work compared to a colonoscopy, Michelle. So
yeah. So there you have it. It possibly could be for you as the practitioner and the one doing the work, because if a client brings you things and it's a complete mess, it's probably like inside the colon where it's a complete mess and the doctors have to go up there with a camera figuring out where to look. But okay, that's probably really gross for this podcast. But my point is that when you're put under, we are putting our 100% trust in you. And we need to feel that we understand what you're doing for us. So it's not a weekly call by any means, but it's a summary. It's a explanation. It's maybe a video. I love how earlier you said video. A few of my students have done that where, even with a simple return, a 30-second to 1-minute Loom video, explaining what happened this year in your taxes, will answer a bunch of questions and remove the back and forth from the experience with the client and the firm owner.
Right. Because when you can't see what's going on behind the scenes, you shared your boyfriend's left assuming everything turned out okay, right? But oftentimes people assume that if they can't see it, that nothing's going on.
Right.
So then there's no better way to make somebody feel completely invaluable than to not give them attention, to ignore them, to not see them.
Yeah.
People like to be heard and seen. And so even something as simple as, hey, we take for granted that we know the 15th is a filing deadline, but to send out a note that says, hey, happy tax day, or reminder your payments are due, or we get to celebrate because the statute of limitations is now expired for 2019 tax returns. Woohoo! Those sorts of communications is just building the relationship, and it is bringing them more into what's happening behind the scenes in something that's understandable, right?
Totally. Yeah, it has to be understandable. And, it's not like when my boyfriend got out of the surgery or cleanup, they went in and said all the medical jargon to him. They just said, we didn't see any polyps. It doesn't look cancerous. You're good to go. Like just in general terminology.
Right. Or even, a photograph. Well, here's what.
Oh, yeah. They gave a photograph too.
Right. And so it's part of the journey, right? And so the starting point for this is really to create a client journey map where you map out each of your clients' journeys for different services that you offer. Because sometimes you may have a process for completing a tax return, for example, but then when a consulting job comes up, you don't really have a firm process for that. So you want to have a map for each one of your clients' journeys in their experience with your company.
Can you share what you've done? Considering we're talking about doing the work that really matters. So let's focus on the high paying stuff. What does your client journey look like? And so you're getting paid well for what you do and others that you teach. But if you're doing the work that really matters, what does that client journey map look like, especially as it relates to, building the communication, the relationship, and all that stuff behind the scenes? So what does your photo of your intestines look like, or your reporting of the tumors?
It's my map, right? It's my client journey map. And so in the tax planning process, our client journey experience starts with a link. And so whether that person is being introduced to us from someone else, or they've responded to our marketing, perhaps they've met us online, or maybe they've read one of our books, they get a personalized link where they can come in and sign up and create their own portal. And once they do that, once they sign up by clicking on the link, there are prompts that tell people what to do. So there's a prompt that pops up that says, please tell us who you are, fill in your name. Please upload a copy of your most recent tax return. And let's say they're not ready to do it in that moment. Let's say the first thing they do is they set up the portal and then they go away. Well, we have reminders that will pop back in to their email that says, hey, you're almost there. We're moments away from being able to tell you what we can do to help. We just need that tax return.
Do you recommend any services for this portal that you've used before?
Yeah, there's lots of providers. We're obviously using technology. And so one thing I look for in my communication technology is automation. Mm-hmm. I'm looking to see that there's a trigger that happens that causes automated communication. So the trigger in this case could be that somebody hasn't been there for 2 days and they didn't upload their tax return. That's a trigger in my system that automatically sends out communication. And so therefore then you as the customer, Michelle, you're getting that constant communication, but I'm not having to think about it. I'm not having to log in and go, gee, did somebody that I haven't met yet upload their tax return? Right. But they get the experience, right? And so then once they upload that tax return, that's another trigger. And so it sets up a reminder. It sends workflow to my calendar to let me know, hey, there's a review, there's an evaluation that needs to be done. There's an email that goes out to schedule a Zoom meeting with that person so that they can pick a time that works for them. And it's convenient, right? This is all just happening easily. But the experience part of it is, wow, I've actually made it user-friendly to do business with me. And so that's one of the things you want to nail down is you want to make it easy to do business with you. If you're hard to reach, and listen, I'm not saying this is a fault, We all have a lot on our plates, and you probably aren't answering your phone. People go to voicemail. But think about it from the client's perspective. They leave a message. Now they have to wait for you to call back. And when you call back, maybe they're not available.
Yep.
Have the phone tag going on. That's not a pleasant experience. But if you can create that seamless process, even with technology, it's the idea that you're creating this positive experience.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to what you mentioned earlier, which is shedding some of these obstacles and having the triggered automation in whatever the communication system or platform you use for your firm is crucial in creating a high value experience, which then you will be able to sell your high value service that matches that.
Right. And so then having additional triggers and automated workflows and communications that take place, even after you've now solidified a relationship. So on the tax planning side, we do an evaluation process. We meet with the client. We quote our premium fee and our premium price and what we can do for them. And then once they accept, well, I can tag that client in my system so that now they get a customized engagement letter sent out to them and they get a customized questionnaire. So it happens on autopilot. What I used to do, Michelle, and this was before we had some of this cool technology available, is I'd meet with somebody and I'm in meetings all day and it would be the end of the day. And now I'm going to follow up and send an email and say, hey, here's the questionnaire we talked about 11 hours ago. Yep. Right? So to have that seamlessly happen just because I've clicked a mouse on my client's name is so helpful for my experience as well as for their experience. And once you do that, now you can actually set out to charge premium fees and be appreciated in that process.
Yeah, and charging premium fees is what we're talking about today, getting paid well for the work that you do and doing the work that really matters. And it, I'm sure you're listening and it sounds daunting to hear all of this. And I imagine that you're like, well, this sounds great, Dominique, but where do I even start? If you had to share, just step one. So I'm all about taking action and doing something after you listen to this episode today. What would be the first step to getting, into the groove of which offering you're going to put together? And then also creating this high value experience in the firm so you can focus on doing the work that really matters and getting out of the rut of feeling the burnout that you might be feeling right now and just wanting to go lay on the couch, drink a cerveza or a glass of wine and turn on some Netflix and, instead of putting me and Dominique on mute because you don't want to do this. But, we're talking about how to end this cycle.
Right. Yeah. And it starts with exactly that. It's considering what your high value service is. So I'd invite you to really think about what are the times where you've worked with clients where they have just been thrilled with the outcome, thrilled with the work that you've done. And I'll tell you, it doesn't happen that often when I'm preparing a Form 1040 and I'm presenting it that somebody's like, yes, thank you so much for that form. That's great. Now, sometimes that happens, there's some appreciation there, but you have to really dig to think through. And if maybe you don't have that experience, maybe you haven't had that yet, can you learn something from colleagues? There's lots of chat boards. There's people you meet at different conferences. Can you recall or even inquire of your colleagues of what are the services that they offer where they've gotten a great response from their client? Those are usually going to be a really good bet. And, just sharing personal experience, it's got to be understandable. Again, people don't really understand what the value is of the filing. It's hard. It's hard to describe that. And if that's the road that you're going to go down, if that's the hill you're going to die on, is insisting that this thing is valuable, you're going to always have a fight on your hands. You need something where the value is obvious so that when you simply point it out, it's understood and it's clear. Yeah. It's got to be so clear that they can instantly see why they would want to work with you.
Yeah.
And you want to then include that experience all the way from the beginning, from the time that someone's a prospective client, all the way through when they are a client and you're delivering your service, and then retaining them. So once you've completed that work, it's staying engaged, it's still having that positive experience year round, and not just kind of dropping them because the work is over in that moment, but finding those touch points so that you can continue to bring them value. And so I'd recommend jotting out that and brainstorming that customer journey and looking for all the places that you can add wow. Where can you insert that wow factor?
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's a great next step, for those of you that want to start really doing the work that matters and getting paid well for it instead of dying on the hill, where it's really hard to show the value of some compliance type work, but being able to make the value obvious and clear and just so obvious that your clients get really excited about it. Is there anything else today, Dominique, that you'd want to share on that one step, that next thing that maybe you didn't mention yet, in order for someone listening today who really wants to focus on doing really what matters and getting paid well and having this high value experience with the high value service that they're going to lead with?
Just leaving you with a clue and actually even some hope. We can sometimes recognize what's not working by people's responses. And so when you found yourself justifying or having to justify your fees or explain, how did you come up with your fees, or why does it cost that much, or why do you have to do that form? That's a pretty good indicator that the person that you're working with does not value that service. Now, look, at the end of the day, we have laws and we're there to help keep our clients in compliance with those laws. The work has to be done, but that doesn't need to be your wow service. If you've got to justify or explain, that's probably not the best service to lead with and have that be the hallmark of the experience with your firm. So you want to look for something else in that case. And, lastly is just to be aware that, again, you don't have to take every client that comes along. And in fact, high value clients behave very differently than non-high value clients. And so don't be afraid to pass on people.
Yep.
When you feel like people are nagging and exhibiting poor behavior, it's time to let that go and walk away and say, I wish you the best, and I hope that you're able to find what you're looking for, but that's not going to be here. Yeah. Knowing that there are people out there, they might be a little bit more difficult to find, but they're worth a lot more individually. And it's about creating that space so that you can provide a high value experience for people. Don't focus on getting the 700 or the 7,000 clients. It's really the lesser number that add more value to your firm that deserve your time and attention.
Love it. Well, thank you, Dominique, for being here with us on the Abundant Accountant podcast. It's always an honor to have you. And we'll definitely see you in a future episode. So thanks for being here.
Thanks, Michelle. And hey, let's all celebrate the expiration of the statute of limitations. It's passed now. Woo-hoo.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. Go celebrate. Have a cerveza or a glass of wine and start writing and mapping out your client journey. Focus on step one. Think about the services. Ask yourself the questions that she brought up. And I will repeat them again right here. And I will see you in the next episode. What an amazing episode with Dominique today. Really honing in on what is that high value experience that you want to create? What is that high value service that you want to offer that matches the experience? It could be advanced tax reduction. It could be I learned from one of my clients today a word called fractional CFO. I didn't even know what that was. But what does that experience look like for you and in your firm? And what action steps can you take today? And what can your client journey map look like? What kind of communications and automations would you be able to invest maybe 2-3 hours a week creating so that your communication process with your clients is easy and seamless versus exhausting and daunting? And really mapping it out, get on the whiteboard, grab a piece of paper, and having it be understandable so you don't have to be on this hill of volume and dying on that hill from being so exhausted and burnt out. And remember, in your service that you come up with, having the value that is obvious and clear that will retain your clients and have you be excited to meet with them monthly or quarterly is what you want to focus on. So keep that in mind. And for those of you that are extremely sick of grinding 14 hours a day, maybe this tax season had you, pretty much done with wanting to even have a firm, and you're sick of sacrificing your time with your family and friends, and you're done with postponing vacations and exhausted of being on that daily financial roller coaster, then know that none of that is your fault. Nobody is training you on how to really fix and solve these problems and connect the dots. But I want you to step up, take complete control of your firm's profitability, and be able to double your firm revenue with ease. And if you want to have that, then here's what I have for you. My team and I have set aside the next 48 hours to speak to you personally about how you can apply some new ideas, like charging premium fees, not giving out discounts, getting paid what you're worth, not doing free work, getting paid up front, never sending out a proposal or quote again, and all of these things that might feel really heavy and like, Michelle, I just don't know how to do that. So if you're willing to pull back that curtain and get crystal clear on where you're at now and what are the things that are keeping you stuck, then head on over to theabundantcall.com. We'll get on the phone for about 45 minutes. We'll identify where you want your firm to be. We will ensure that you have a plan to get paid first, avoiding all the pitfalls and saving you a ton of money in the process. And you will have a plan with the exact next steps so you can double your firm revenue this year. You can triple your fees and get out of this rut. So head on over to theabundantcall.com, and my team and I look forward to speaking to you.